Hi everybody, I'm Mayor Eric Pappenfuss, and I'm joined today by the Parks Maintenance Director for the City of Harrisburg, Mr. Ron Taylor.
How you doing?
We are at the site of our proposed composting facility for the City of Harrisburg. And if you look around at the great expanse behind us, you'll see a pleasant rolling field, and the compost site basically goes up to the ridge line there, and over to our left, and then to a fence here on our right.
I thought that there were homes directly around this site that might be in the path of bad fumes or something.
I think you've already mentioned two misconceptions about this site, Ron. The first is that somehow we're in a residential neighborhood, and the answer is we're not.
Right.
We're actually very appropriately situated in a little bit of an industrial stretch here. CRW is located to our right. DGS owns the grounds over there. And this is basically a field. The closest home is over 1,000 feet away beyond the ridge line and beyond the tree line. It is way, way back there.
So there are no homes.
There aren't. There are not only no homes, but I don't think anyone could possibly hear us, even if we screamed as loud as we could.
Let's try it.
Hello! Ho! Ho! There's just no way. There's no way. But it's not just about the homes. There are other misconceptions about this site, and I think we ought to clear them up. What's another misconception from your perspective?
Misconception I got was that we were going to be composting animal parts and food waste.
Yeah.
Is that true, Mayor?
It's not. It's not. The only things that people are going to see when they come here are going to be leaves, maybe some grass clippings, some yard waste, tree branches, that sort of thing. But no food. No food of any sort. So that's positive. And I'll note at our feet, Ron, I'm going to bend down. There are leaves all over. And you know what they're doing? They are naturally composting.
Composting is a natural process that's sped up by human activity. So composting, as we know it at a municipal site, does not occur in nature. So it's basically enhanced by making piles of organic material and allowing the microorganisms to decompose the material in a much quicker manner than it does in nature. So it's basically a natural process that's sped up by humans.
So what we're planning to do is basically create several rows of leaf piles. And every once in a while, the only equipment that's really used for this composting is a turner that'll come in and turn those leaves. And then eventually, naturally, they will have broken down, released the carbon dioxide, released the water naturally back into the ground. And we'll have a wonderful product that people can use for home gardening and fertilizer and whatever they want to do.
You could put it in writing now, but maybe 5 years from now, you could change and start composting food byproducts. Is that a possibility?
It's not a possibility, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be applying for a permit from DEP, and that permit is going to say exactly what we can do and what we can't do. So it's going to say that we can compost leaves, but it's not going to say that we can compost food waste or anything along those lines. And if we were to ever change, our permit would be invalid, we'd be in violation, and they would clamp down on us hard.
In Pennsylvania, there are over 400 sites that are approved by the Department of Environmental Protection. Composting is regulated under the municipal waste regulations of Pennsylvania, which DEP is required to enforce. And they have a number of regulations that do control the composting activities.
We're also going to protect the people in another way. We're going to do an intergovernmental agreement between Susquehanna Township and the City of Harrisburg, which basically pledges that what we're applying for is all we're going to do. And we'll extend that out for decades. So we're not going to change the size of our composting site. We're not going to change the use of our composting site. We can't do it because of the permit, but we'll also put it in writing as a sort of intergovernmental agreement with Susquehanna Township.
So basically what you're saying is you're coming up with a win-win-win proposal. The City of Harrisburg wins, the people in the community win because we eliminate a dumping site, the EPA and the earth benefit, And the children benefit because they get a learning facility.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the benefit to the environment really can't be understated. I mean, right now, historically, a lot of the yard waste in the city of Harrisburg, since we haven't had our own facility and people haven't really been educated about it, a lot of times that's sort of gets mixed in with trash. It gets burned at the incinerator. It's not naturally recycled like in a composting process.
Taking organic waste out of the waste stream is a positive right there. Keeping it from being landfilled or incinerated, reduces our, economically your lower tip fees for not disposing of it. Keeping organic material in landfills can produce methane-producing gases, and if it's not handled correctly, that can be released to the atmosphere. The compost itself, the manufacturing of compost, is a agricultural product. It's a soil amendment. When added to soil, it improves the soil in many ways.
And in fact, you're going to have a wonderful sort of environmental science field program here, which we're going to be able to bring students to. Imagine students from the Harrisburg School District and elsewhere coming and learning about the carbon life cycle, learning about composting. They want to recycle. They want to be good stewards in the environment. This is sort of the next step. Now we have this field laboratory, so to speak, where people can come and they can learn about the environment. And so that benefit is huge.
What about the illegal dumping?
Actually, what's occurring right now is that there is illegal dumping because the site really isn't being looked after. The city is going to come in and we're going to fence it, we're going to maintain it, it's going to look beautiful, and we'll prevent things from some of the illegal dumping that you'll see if you walk around this site. So we're actually going to improve this. And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to maintain the green space buffer that exists between the composting site and the homes, which is really important. There's going to be a natural green space. It's really a good location, and it's basically underutilized, so why not do something positive? We are now at the other end of the proposed composting facility. If you look down towards the car and the gate there, that's where we were standing.
Right.
And we are now all the way in the outfield. And you can see 5 acres, not that large a space, big enough to do what we want to do with the windrows and the leaves. But we're certainly, even at this end, very far from any neighboring homes. It's quiet. There's a natural buffer and a natural ridge which runs along the back here, blocking anything out.
Where are the homes? I can't see any homes.
You won't be able to see the homes for hundreds more feet until we were to go over that ridge.
So if we can't see them, then they wouldn't see the facility.
No, they wouldn't see us. There's a misconception about traffic that somehow all of our trucks with leaves would be going through the neighborhood.
Right.
That there is no need for any Harrisburg truck to go through any neighborhood in Susquehanna Township at all. And we were going to have the trucks basically go from the Harrisburg neighborhoods where they're picking up the leaves to Cameron, to the bypass to here, to avoid unnecessarily going
Pretty
through
much
Harrisburg's
the same driving
neighborhoods.
route that we follow coming.
Yeah, but also organized, centralized, and done in an appropriate manner. This area, which is sort of the size of a baseball field, we're basically in a baseball field, that's where we would put in the rows of the leaves and have a small mulching and grinding operation. The only thing that is being fenced in is essentially the grassy area that we see going down to the car and to the gate. What I'd like to do now, Ron, is walk you next door to this lot and show you what the Department of General Services has done right next door. They've established a composting facility. So we are literally a 30-second walk from the entrance to the composting facility. I can throw a baseball to home plate, so to speak, from here. And this is the area where DGS has already a composting site. It's fenced, it's old. Ours would look, I think, a lot nicer than this, but you get the general sense of what's happening. You have a series of piles, former windrows of what is now sort of composted material. Another misperception that happened was that people were saying, well, nobody's going to want to live near a composting facility, right? It's going to depress property values. But in fact, in Camp Hill, some of the nicest homes anywhere in central Pennsylvania are the neighbors.
Yeah.
What was the reaction when we took residents to the facility?
Everyone was surprised. They looked at the homes. They couldn't believe that homes that nice and that cost that much were within a rock's throw of a composting facility, an open and thriving and working composting facility.
And in fact, the neighbors like living. They want it. They think it's a great benefit. It's a boom. It's actually an economic benefit that will increase property values because people want to live in areas where composting and the environment are taken seriously.
That means that you're living in an ecologically efficient area.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not aware of any incidents or concerns about health from compost sites. As I said, there's over 400 sites in Pennsylvania. I have not heard of any issues arising from the compost, health issues.
Composting done correctly doesn't really have byproducts that are detrimental to the earth because it's comprised, and the process is very different than landfills. You're not just creating a pile of something and not doing anything with it to facilitate the breakdown of it. With composting, you're actively working the material that leads to your end product.
We promote this industry. We just did a large economic impact study of recycling in Pennsylvania, and there's huge numbers economically. 66,000 people employed in Pennsylvania because of recycling. Over 600 organic sites, not just composting, but mulch producers, people that recycle wood and woody vegetation into mulch, as well as the compost sites. A lot of jobs in Pennsylvania because of recycling and composting.
Of course, again, this land is owned by the school district.
Yep.
We are in Susquehanna Township. We're on the edge of the city. And so it's going to require cooperation for all three of those entities. But if we work together, we can create something great.